Pablo Picassos. It's an utterly charming and informative tour through the life and career of Pablo Picasso, enhanced by the wonderful art of Violet Lime. Violet Lime is an award-winning author and illustrator. Now you see a picture right in front of your screens. Who is this? Do you know his name? His name is Pablo Picasso, and he was a Spanish painter. He is one of the most celebrated artists in the world. Did you know that Pablo Picasso created over 50,000 works of art in his lifetime? Or that he also wrote poetry? Did you know that his simple drawing of a dove became an international symbol of peace? What comes in your mind when we say 100 Pablo Picassos? In this book, there are 100 illustrations, as in drawings of Pablo Picasso, which will help us to explore the artist's life from his childhood to his major contributions to modern art, from his love for pets to his endless curiosity about life. What is modern art? The artwork produced during the period roughly from 1860s to the 1970s is called modern art. Now back to the Pablo Picasso. He was the first child of Don Jose Ruiz y Blasco and an art teacher, Maria Picasso. At an early age, Pablo showed an interest in drawing, and at the age of 7, Pablo began receiving art lessons from his father. By the age of 8, Pablo painted his picture called El Picador. It was the starting of a talented career. Cubism, the Cubist movement. He and George Braque invented Cubism, a form of painting using simple geometrical shapes. He is also known for making collages. He created oil paintings, sculpture, drawings, stage designs, tapestries, rugs, etchings, collage, and architecture. Now let's discuss about the blue and the rose period in Pablo's life. When Picasso was sad, after his friend's death, he painted all pictures in blue, called the blue period. After the dark period, when he found happiness, he painted in pink tones, called his rose period. Rose is another French word for pink. Now keep in mind that the blue period represents sadness, grief, sorrow, and the rose period represents happiness, joy. Now, right in front of your screens, you will see some of his famous paintings. Now, in front of you, this picture is called the Three Musicians. What geometrical shapes can you see? Identify. Like, for example, I can tell you, we see a rectangle, we see a hemisphere, we see a triangle, we see a square. There's so many other shapes that will come up in your mind when you visualize this picture properly. Now again, you will see some of Picasso's famous artworks. The first one on the very left corner is the portrait of Dora Maar. Right in the middle, you see an old man with a guitar. Now, what does this picture represent? It represents the blue period. The blue period meant it shows sadness, emotions of grief and sorrow. And then you see another picture in the right corner. The topic is The Peasants by Picasso. And what does it represent? The rose period. Keep in mind, the rose period depicts happiness and joy. Pablo Picasso died in April 8, 1973 in France. Now let's say some of his most famous dialogues. I paint objects as I think them, not as I see them. What does he mean by that? He meant that he paint objects by thinking about them, not by just seeing them or visualizing them. How creative is that? All children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. Let's now explore 100 Pablo Picassos by watching the video of the book. Let me read the front cover of the book, 100 Pablo Picassos, art by Violet Leeming. Now inside, right in front of you, you will see a blue cover, which has an understatement saying, "My mother said to me, if you are a soldier, you will become a general. If you are a monk, you will become the Pope. Instead, I was a painter and I became Picasso." Let's now read the first page of this book. This is Pablo Picasso, one of the most important artists of all time. He was born in Malaga, a city in Spain. Picasso's first word, "piz," short for lapis or pencil. Now right in front of your screens, you see a map. Where is Spain located? Do you see Malaga? Once you've figured out where they're located, we shall continue on to the next. The young Pablo Picasso on the opposite page is number 1. Find 99 more. Now you saw the first illustration of Pablo Picasso. You will see 99 more on the other pages. Remember that you will see the numbers on each of the illustrations or each of the drawings of Pablo Picasso. Look at those numbers very carefully in order to follow the book. Pablo Picasso worked on all kinds of art. He was always busy and made more than 50,000 works of art in his life. What do we see in the first picture? We see some sculptures. He is basically fixing those sculptures by what? By some equipments. So, Picasso made this sculpture called the bull's head using pieces of an old bike. Picasso designed costumes for a ballet company called Ballet Russe in Paris. Do you see these costume designs and how creative and lovely they are? We also see the canvas of theaters and drawings on this page. Picasso was always happy to learn new things. In the fifth one, you can see him making poetry, making ceramics. He learned to make ceramics when he was 64 years old. Now we can see a lot of canvas and posters. You see firstly a poster that has a pottery drawn on it. And then we see some collages and we see some prints of a cow. And we see some abstract paintings. However, in his leisure time, what else did he do? He used to write poems. So you can also figure out that since he made ceramics when he was 64 years old, what can you visualize? That at the age of 64, you turn really old, you're out of energy. But Pablo Picasso was so determined, he was so enthusiastic, and he was a keen learner. So even until the age of 64, he was so energetic and he made a lot of ceramics and pottery. And in his free time, he would write poems. Now, moving on to the next page. Sometimes Picasso was sad, so he painted many pictures with the color blue. Now this is talking about the blue period. Remember I told you what the blue period represents? Blue period depicts sadness, sorrow, and emotions of grief when you're crying and when you're sad. This time in Picasso's life, it is called the blue period. This is Picasso's friend Carlos Casagemas. When Casagemas died, Picasso was really sad. During the Blue period, Picasso chose to paint sad and poor people like this old, blind guitar player he found on the streets of Barcelona, Spain. Do you see this canvas right in front of him? He sees an old person who is playing a guitar, and this old person is blind. Do you see these are feelings of sadness and grief? During the Blue period, Picasso lived in Barcelona and Paris. He stayed in run-down apartments and cheap hotels. After the dark years of the Blue period, Picasso found happiness. He changed the colors in his work. Picasso was happy with the company of Fernande Olivier. They met in Paris in 1904. Fernande was not Picasso's only love. The artist had many girlfriends and wives. Picasso was always in love. Now, what do you identify with the Rose period? The Rose period represents happiness, joy. You're cheerful, you're feeling lively. This time in Picasso's life, it is called the Rose period. The Rose period is named after Picasso's use of pink tones in his paintings. What tones did he use? The pink tones. Rose is the French word for pink. Now on to the next page. In 1904, Picasso moved permanently to Paris. He made many friends who helped him to become an artist. Picasso and the painter George Braque worked side by side for many years. Then you see a writer, Gertrude Stein, who was a great supporter of Picasso. Poets and writers like John Cocteau and Max Jacob were among Picasso's friends. Henri Matisse was another great artist. Matisse and Picasso became very good friends and rivals. Now, can you see in these pictures that he was very social and met a lot of people, and he explored a lot and he traveled so many places. And when he traveled all these places, he made a lot of friends. So he was very social. Picasso liked to paint himself. He made many self-portraits. Picasso painted this picture of himself when he was around 15 years old. This is a picture of Picasso. So you have to count this one too. Which one is it? On number 18. He drew his self-portrait. He drew a picture of himself. A self-portrait is a picture of you created by you yourself, as in you draw your very own face with your very own features. Don't forget this, Picasso, on page number 22. Again, on page number 21, you see another, that is Picasso again himself. Picasso liked African masks. These masks inspired him to paint people's faces in that style. On 23, what do you see? This look is like an African mask, but it is Picasso's. So keep counting. How many did we do so far? We saw 23 illustrations of Pablo Picasso. I hope you are following along with me. In 1907, Picasso completed a painting in a style that nobody had ever seen before. With La Damisel's d'Avignon, Picasso began a new art style called the Cubism. This picture is called the three musicians that you see right in front of the screens. Now, what is Cubism? I'm going to read, so keep in mind that you must know the meaning of Cubism. In Cubism, artists show all sides of an object in a single picture, using different geometrical shapes. George Braque and Picasso worked together to create Cubist art. What did they do? They basically worked together to form a Cubist art. You can see one in illustration number 35, and in illustration number 38 you can see that they both are working together. In illustration number 36, what do you see? Cubism made Picasso really famous. In illustration number 37, artists used cubism in all kinds of mediums, from painting to sculpture. Find the numbers, follow along with me so you do not get confused. Look at those tiny numbers right across the paper. Now moving on to the next page. Picasso loved animals, particularly dogs. He had many pets in his life, from a white mouse to a goat named Esmeralda. Picasso's favorite dog was a dachshund named Lump. Do you see a long dog? What is it called? Lump. Now in illustration number 40, what do you see? You can see a plate. So he painted this plate for Lump. What does this represent? He is basically showing here that he is expressing his form of art, and he is drawing his favorite pet on this plate. He drew the dog Lump on this plate. Now he is merging his form of art, his passion, on the plate. His favorite pet on the plate. In illustration number 39, you see another dog licking his face. In illustration number 47, you see another dog, Cat. In 46, you see Yan. In 45, you see a turtle, which is probably not named, but you can see a green turtle. In 44, he's basically grabbing Esmeralda with a rope. That's another sort of a goat that he owned. Then you see Frika, which is another dog on illustration number 42. On illustration number 43, you see a small rat, a cross, and abacus. From the time he was a kid, Pablo Picasso had always liked bullfights. What did he like? He loved bullfights. So, keeping that picture in mind, he portrayed it on his canvas. He started drawing that on his canvas. Do you see how ideas generate from his mind? Like he takes all his favorite things and draws them across the paper or on his canvas. This is exactly what he did. He used to love bullfights. That was something he was passionate about. Now that passion was merged along with the passion of art. He drew it on his canvas. He also made many pictures of imaginary animals like centaurs, fawns, and even the Minotaur. The Minotaur is basically an imaginary beast that is half man and half bull. What is it? It's an imaginary beast that is half man and half bull. Now that looks like something that is fantasy. I don't think that can be something that is in real life. Now this is something he is fantasizing. We can see a Minotaur on illustration number 52. Did you see that? On 51, what do we see? He also made sculptures of these beasts. What did he do? He made a sculptures of the beast called the Minotaur. Some people think that Picasso saw himself as a Minotaur. In 1949, Picasso painted a beast using light. In 1936, war broke out in Spain. 1 year later, the town of Guernica was bombed. Picasso was living in Paris and he was very upset. So he painted his famous painting on Guernica. What did he do? He took an inspiration of the war that took place in Guernica and then painted it across his canvas. Now, on the other side, you see a map of Spain. Can you locate Guernica there? Well, Guernica is located where you see a red star drawn across the map. Now let's see his different illustrations. On 53, he's standing and painting with a brush. On 54, he's bending down on the floor and painting the rest part of the canvas. On 55, he's standing and he's painting across the canvas. On 56, again, he takes a thicker brush and completes the rest of the painting. On 57, he basically climbed all the way to the ladders and completed the top part of the canvas. On 58, he was painting the remaining corners of the canvas. Many people were killed in the bombing. Picasso showed this horror in his painting. Do you see some tones of gray? What do tones of gray represent? Gray represents sadness, grief, sorrow. Since so many people died in the bombing, he is showing those in the form of colors, in the form of depressing tones of gray. Guernica is a huge painting. It is bigger than a professional soccer goal. Can you imagine how long it must have took him? Picasso used gray tones to show the sorrow of war. War did not stop in Guernica. World War II then started in 1939. Picasso left Paris for the south of France. In 1945, the war finally ended. After the war, Picasso made a simple drawing of a dove. The drawing became a symbol of peace all over the world. What did it represent? A symbol of peace. In 59, you can see him drawing a dove. And in illustration number 60, what do you see? You see that when Picasso was 9 years old, he made many drawings of birds. He would have birds right in front of him. He would take the inspiration and then draw them across the canvas. Pablo Picasso had 4 children. His daughter, Paloma, was born in 1949. Paloma means dove in Spanish. Can you see in illustration number 64? He has his daughter named Paloma. And then in illustration number 63, there are 3 other children that you can see. His other children were named Paulo, Maya, and Claude. In 61, you see a bigger illustration of his hands where he was drawing the dove. In illustration number 62, he is carving a goat. After the war, Picasso moved again to the south of France where he worked in sculpture and ceramics. Do you see he used to travel a lot? Picasso worked in a cluttered studio. That means he really liked mess. He said that the messy room inspired him. Picasso took an old masterpiece called La Meninus by the painter Diego Velázquez and made it his very own. Do you see how cluttered and how messy his room was? In 72, he's busy working on another canvas. In 65, he's resting on his rocking chair along with his dog. In 71, he's just randomly roaming around with his canvas, trying to figure out where he's gonna put it. In 67, you can see a lump in the painting. Can you see the lump in the painting? Where is it? Try to spot it in illustration number 67, where he's holding his jar right in front of your screens. Where is it? Where he is holding his jar. In illustration number 70, he is completing his canvas. In 69, he's just randomly resting and reading his newspaper. In 68, he's just probably exercising and stretching himself to relax. Picasso lived until he was 91 years old, and he never stopped working. Now, 91 years old is a very, very old age, but he still was very, very determined and energetic. He did not feel tired, and he was always enthusiastic to do even better. On 76, you see some of his canvas and you see him depicting all his paintings. In 75, 74, 73, you see many of his other canvases. In 77, you see again a beast that we discussed about initially. What was it? Minotaur. So today, you can see Picasso's art in museums all over the world. He is a megastar of the art world. Look at all these illustrations. There are so many. 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. He's just unimaginable, doing all sorts of activities. Now in illustration number 79, did you figure out something? It's kind of like a funny illustration. He's basically in his bathtub and he's drawing. Like he's still drawing when he's in his bathtub. He can get all sorts of unusual ideas even when he's in the bathroom. Picasso was very curious about the world. He saw things differently and showed us the world in a special way. Picasso's art broke many rules. He loved trying new ways to make art. We see so many illustrations here. Number 92, 93, where he is with his friend trying to socialize and have a breakfast and discuss about art. Various ideas about art. In 95, he's again socializing with his friend. In 91, you see him resting across his rocking chair, enjoying his movements and enjoying the movements of his dog. In 90, you see him trying to figure out what the little kid is doing with the abacus. And in 99 and in 100, you finally see that he is basically relaxing because he worked on a lot of faces. Picasso faces. We saw that 100 Pablo Picassos in this book. Did you find them all? Could you all see these small numbers? Look at these numbers very carefully so you get an inspiration. Now, moving on to the questions. What do you know about Pablo Picasso? Who is Pablo Picasso? I'm going to answer for you all, so pay attention. Pablo Picasso was a Spanish painter. Now the second question is, what were Pablo Picasso's parents' names? His parents' names were Ruiz Blasco and Maria Picasso. At what age did Pablo Picasso have his first art lessons? At the age of 7, he started his first art lessons along with his father. Question number 4. What was Pablo Picasso's first picture? El Picador. Question number 5. Did Pablo Picasso invent Cubism? Yes, with his friend George Braque. What is Cubism? Cubism is basically a picture converted into geometrical shapes. Question number 7. Can you name some of Pablo Picasso's pictures? Well, I'm going to name some of them for you. The very first was the 3 musicians we saw in the book. Then we have the old man that depicts the blue period. What was the old man doing in that period? He was basically a blind man playing a guitar. And this shows a sorrowful period. And then you see the third picture that depicts the peasants in rose period. Rose periods show tones of pink that represents happiness and joy. I'm going to give you instructions for today's lesson, so listen very carefully. As you all know by now that this week's lesson is on the artist Pablo Picasso. Now that we've read the whole book and also read about Picasso's life, what can you all figure out? Visualize and depict about the blue period and the rose period. What do these colors portray? They express your feelings, your desires. So today, we're going to learn how to draw a face, following Pablo Picasso's style. Keeping in mind by taking an inspiration from Picasso's work. Now in front of your screens, can you see the face of Pablo Picasso? Two different styles in one face are drawn together. For example, as you can see or figure out by looking at the different types of features of the eyes. On the left side of the eye, you see a different style of the eyes. On the right side of the eye, you see another type of eye. You see two different features. So the left side is completely different from the right side. Two different features are shown on each side of the face. Now, focusing on the directions for drawing Picasso-style portrait. Firstly, draw a large head of your own choice from the head styles given in the box right below. What do you see? You see different head styles and you need to pick one. Now, moving on to the next page, you'll see that you have to choose and draw two different eye styles from the eyes column. Here comes the nose. What style you like the best in terms of a nose? Look below on the box and select the one that best suits you and then draw it across the face. After drawing the nose comes the fourth step, that is drawing the mouth. Choose one of the mouths shown on the box below and then begin drawing it on your face. Now that we are finally done with the face, it's time for the hairstyle. Draw this sort of hairstyle, and then as you can see that we have placed these patterns for you, draw these inside the hair. Different patterns and textures are right in front of your screens. Draw one of these patterns and textures right across the hairstyle that you've drawn exactly the way as it's shown in the screen.